And we kick off this evening with a look at the cinema.
I'm not a complicated man. I like cinema.
It's beautiful, beautiful cinema.
Cinema history come to life.
I found my solace in the small cinema I went to every Thursday night.
I'm a professor of cinema.
I go to the cinema for the stories.
There was no competition between the cinema and seminar.
I mean, it's not within the realm of conventional cinema.
And now,
here's Payson Johnson
with a cinema review.
It is Monday, May 22nd, 8 EST, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Cinemaster's Review. I am your host, Payson, the Cinemaster Johnson. Thank you all for joining us this week. Last week, we had to do a pre-recorded episode because we had a guest from the wee country of Australia. But this week, very happy to be live and talking movies with you guys. We're going to be reviewing two exciting movies, Fast X, the 10th entry in the Fast and Furious franchise, as well as Master Gardener, the new film by Paul Schrader. Before I do a little plug, why don't we just get into our why don't we bring in our first guest? There is a saying around this community called "You got chened" when you get destroyed in trivia by this man, and that man is the man they call Matthew Chen. Matthew, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely, yeah. First, I would just like to make some apologies. I'm feeling a little under the weather, so just want to give the forewarning out to the audience. But the other thing I wanted to say, we got merch, everyone. Cinemaster's Review shirt. I would like to thank Nazario Montenegro for printing these shirts. You can buy them at TeePublic. The video store's name or to shop. You can get them on tpublic.com, and you can get your Cinemaster's Review shirts, your mugs, your face masks. It's awesome. Tons of stuff. But Matthew, how are you doing tonight?
No, I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
Thank you so much. Yeah, but I say we just jump right into our first review of the night, that being the 10th entry in one of the loudest, one of the craziest, one of the most explosive franchises out there right now, the Fast and Furious franchise, and the 10th entry is called Fast X, directed by Louis Leterrier. It almost seems silly to describe the plots of these movies, but I'm going to try. The villain from the fifth movie, Fast 5, that villain's son, played by Jason Momoa, is kind of pissed off at Dominic Toretto and his family, and is going out to try to take revenge. And he's going to make Dom's life as miserable as humanly possible in all the ways that all the villains in these movies try to make Dom's life miserable throughout the franchise. Matthew, before we get into this individual review, can I just ask you, what are your thoughts on the Fast and Furious franchise as a whole?
There's something about the Fast and Furious franchise that just like scratches that part of my brain, and I'm like, these are just like really dumb but a lot of fun. Like the first one that I watched was Fast 5, and then I want to say in 2021, the summer of 2021 was when like I did a big Fast and Furious marathon, and so like watched the 4 for the first time, and now there's just like I just really enjoyed like how stupid and like how insane these movies can get, but they're always just really fun.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think the Fast and Furious franchise is probably the definition of just big, dumb fun at the movies. And I think they're better when they are bigger and dumber. Like, I'll be honest, I watched the first Fast and Furious movie for the first time before I saw this movie, and I really don't like that movie, mainly because I just find it kind of boring. Like, I think when it's about, like, the street racing and, like, the life of that, I'm like, this is just boring and I don't really care. But, like, yeah, like when we get to things like Fast 5, and I think really Furious 7 was like where it just went completely balls to the wall, where they're like driving through buildings in Abu Dhabi, or Fate of the Furious, where they're literally driving on the ice in Antarctica. You got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson pushing missiles out of the way.
Breaking out of the cast.
Breaking out. Yeah, and Furious 7 literally flexing out of the cast when he realized it's time to go to work. And he was put in that cast because he was thrown off a 5-story building. Thank goodness he was only in the hospital and not dead, like anyone else would be if they got thrown off a 5-story building. But yeah, like when I think about the Fast and Furious franchise, And I think, especially with Fast X, I think we're really just culminating at this point. These movies are not getting smaller by any means. They're not trying to scale it back. We are essentially watching superheroes. And if you're not willing to accept that, you're not going to like this movie. I'm willing to accept that to a point. I think there are some times in this movie where I'm like, okay, this is getting a little excessive. But I think I've just come to accept, like, look, these are big, turn your brain off movies. It's not the worst type of turn your brain off movies, and I'll explain why. But like, yeah, it's just big, over the top action, and if that's not your thing, you probably won't like it. But I enjoy it. What did you think about just the nature and the tone of this movie, Matthew?
No, yeah, I 100% agree. Like, you know what you're getting into when you watch a Fast and Furious movie, and if you can't get past that, if you can't like just put it all behind you and just like go into a Fast and Furious knowing it's gonna be like mindless action, it's just a super entertaining time.
Yeah, and I think no one really knows that they're in the that they're in a Fast and Furious movie better than Jason Momoa, who I will say is the best part of this movie as the villain. I'm gonna pull up his character name in a second, but as I said, he is the son of the villain from Fast Five. It's really funny. In the opening of this movie, they literally edit him in to scenes from Fast Five, which, like, if you've seen Fast Five, there's absolutely no way he could have been there, but like you don't really care because you're like, whatever. But yeah, he plays the character of, I want to say his first name was Julian. Does that sound right?
In Fast Five.
Oh no. Oh my gosh, no. His name was Valon. Like that is how campy these movies are. The villain's name is Valon. But just he is so over the top. Like when he's like in Rome just setting off bombs and he's like, ooh, dub, I'm just gonna blow this thing up. And he's literally dancing around rooftops because he's taking such solace in just making these characters' lives just awful. I loved Momoa in this movie. He's chewing every single piece of scenery that you would want. He is the type of villain you want. You don't want someone that takes these movies too seriously in this villain role. What did you think about Momoa?
Oh my god, I love Momoa. I think like he knows what movie he's in, and he just chews up every single scene that he's like. He is pretty threatening too as a villain. Like he does some dangerous stuff, but like he is just so entertaining to watch. He's so much fun, and so yeah, I think he's just a super fun villain.
Yeah, his name is Dante Reyes is the name of this villain. I guess on Google just villain is just the placeholder, but honestly, you could take a Fast and Furious movie and just name the villain, and you would have me fooled, honestly. But yeah, I quite enjoyed the new additions to this film. I think Brie Larson as the daughter to Mr. Nobody, Kurt Russell's character, I think she was really, really good. They have a really cool character named Ames, who is essentially, honestly, like kind of like the new Hobbs role. Like he's the one that's working for the government and is kind of trying to bridge the gap between Dom's like fugitive gang and the government to see if they can work together. I didn't really like what they did with his character at the end, played by Alan Richardson. But that's not the fault of the performance. I think that's really just part of the writing. But yeah, I really enjoyed the new characters. What did you think about either Brie Larson, Alan Richardson, or any other new character you want to spotlight?
No, yeah, I did really like these new characters. Like with Ames, like you never really knew like what side he was on, and I thought that was pretty interesting. I like Brie Larson in her role. I really like Daniela Melchior, who I don't want to say too much about her character because like she's not without saying too much. I don't know how you deal with spoilers on this show.
We try to keep it fairly non-spoiler. Like obviously in the first 20 minutes we learned that Dante is the son of the villain from Fast Five, so I don't think that's a spoiler. But like, yeah, we try to keep it fairly non-spoiler.
Yeah, but without saying too much about her character, because she's not in too much of the marketing, I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, no. How do you pronounce her name again? Daniela
Melchior.
Daniela Melchior. I thought she was actually a pretty good welcome addition as well. Yeah, I really enjoyed the new additions to the cast. And if I'm being honest, I liked them way more than what they were having the old returning members doing in this movie. Because if I'm being honest, I think they're kind of starting to get a little bit tired. I think Vin Diesel and Michelle Rodriguez as Dominic and Letty are kind of on autopilot throughout this movie. Without spoiling anything, something happens to Letty, which essentially takes her out of the movie for the majority of the film, which I think is honestly kind of annoying. And at the end of the movie, you realize the reason they're doing this is because, like Vin Diesel has said, he wants Fast X to be the start of the final trilogy in the franchise, which is honestly kind of funny when you think about it. Like saying, oh, we're going to end this franchise on one final trilogy. Like, okay, buddy. But yeah, and then just Vin Diesel's just kind of doing the same thing he's been doing for the past, like, 5 movies, which, like, it gets the job done, but he's not doing anything, like, phenomenal. He's doing the old Vin Diesel thing. I think weirdly I liked Tyrese Gibson as the character of Roman more than I have in other films. Like, usually I find him to be like one of the more annoying characters, but I honestly did like his character more in this one. But yeah, if the characters of Dom and Letty were definitely left a lot to be desired. Matthew, what did you think about Dom and Letty or any of the other returning characters?
I didn't mind them too much. I do think like Letty didn't have as much to do, but and like Dom is like Vin Diesel just kind of plays him just like the same. But I still found I think the issue this movie was having was because they have so many characters, having to balance every single scene that they have is a little bit tough. I really enjoyed all the scenes, but it's just like finding that pacing, I think was a little tough.
Yeah, every time we went back to Toretto's character to Dom, I kept on wishing, like, can we go back to Roman, Tej, Han, and Natalie Emmanuel's character?
Ramsey.
Ramsey. Like, I thought they had the much more interesting role in this movie. There's a reunion between Han, played by Sung Kang, and a certain other character. You can probably guess who that is. But
I think that was in the trailer. I'm not 100% sure,
yeah,
but
I'm pretty sure it's hinted at in the trailer. But it's a really, really cool reunion. But yeah, I think that that storyline was a lot more fun than the actual, like, main storyline. In regards to the action, I think a lot of it kind of blends together, with the exception of one major action scene. The one in Rome where the bomb is just, like, literally bouncing through the streets. And they just need some character to touch it in order to disarm it. But obviously with it rolling, they can't just get out of their car. And if they don't stop it, it's gonna blow up the Vatican. I thought that one was a lot of fun. But that's really the only major action scene that, like, really sticks out in my mind. Mm-hmm. The ending one is honestly, like, I didn't realize we were at the ending until the credits started rolling. I was like, oh, this is it. This is the ending of the film. Like, it honestly felt kind of understated for the movie. Yeah, what did you think about the action set pieces in this movie, Matt?
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of them aren't very memorable, but the bomb sequence, obviously, it's very reminiscent of Fast 5 with the giant bank safe. But I think so yeah, like, it's meant to be, and I think it is very memorable. I remember, I know in the trailer they have the whole, like, helicopter sequence, which I think is just like it's really a lot of dumb. Like, I think it's also reminiscent of, like, some of the older. There's a lot of callbacks, I think, to some of the older Fast and Furious movies. Like, a lot of action scenes remind me of, like, certain scenes that happened in the other ones. And I think this kind of, like, culminates into this movie.
Yeah. Jay Burns said also, did you say blow up the Vatican? Yes, I did. That is something that Dante Reyes decides to do in order to pin on Dom and his crew in this movie. It's kind of insane when you think about it. But yeah, I want to tackle what you said about the callbacks. I think this franchise is starting to get a little too cute with its callbacks. Like, throughout this film, you learn that, like, Dante Reyes has been, like, watching these characters from the side for, like, years, and has had, like, literal clips of like literal photos of certain scenes from the Fast franchise that in no way any character could possibly have There's this one scene where like you see a picture of Brian, played by Paul Walker, rest in peace, and Roman from Too Fast, Too Furious. And there's no way someone could have gotten that photo unless they were literally standing right in front of them. But just suddenly that's there, and I found that really, really funny. And like, of course, like you have John Cena returns in this movie. He's playing Dom's brother, Jacob Toretto. It's honestly kind of funny what they have him do in this movie. Like, he's just escorting Dom's son around America, trying to protect him. Rita Moreno plays Dom's mom, and yeah, good on Rita Moreno. Go and get that paycheck.
Big year, big 2023.
Big 2023 for Rita Moreno, 80 for Brady and Fast X. But yeah, like I'm starting to get like, okay, like I'm happy the Fast franchise is proud of itself as a franchise as a whole, but at the same time, this is not the MCU. Like, I don't think anyone loves these characters quite to that level. What did you think about the callbacks in this movie, Matthew?
Yeah, I mean, I think like they're just kind of funny bits. I think that appear, and so like, sometimes they don't make sense. I don't think this franchise is like supposed to really make sense all that much, and I think I enjoyed them.
Did you also kind of roll your eyes at the ending?
Yeah, a little.
Yeah, like not the post-credit scene, but like the last scene before the credits. A certain former character returns, and I was just like, we're really treating this as like the big be-all end-all. Get ready for part 2, guys. And yeah, I definitely just found that kind of funny. Before we get into final scores, one other thing I did enjoy was we finally got back to like street racing in these movies.
Yes.
Like, and I thought that was honestly kind of fun. Like it's been a while since we just had like 2 characters in this situation. It's 4 characters in a car. They're just going as fast as they can in this car. And I thought that was a nice. I thought that was one of the nicer callbacks. Matthew, what did you think about this element?
No, I completely agree. I really liked the racing scene that they had. It was just really nice to see it go back to its roots, just to, like, for that one bit.
No, absolutely. Well, I think that just about does it on everything with this movie. Unless you want to say anything real quick about the movie, Matthew.
Well, what did you think of the actual end credit scenes?
If it wasn't spoiled by Variety a week ago, I would have been super excited for it. It was, so I was like, wow, screw you, Variety, don't spoil things in your post-credit scene. Jay says, but are they stealing DVD VCR combos, though? Unfortunately not, but that is one of the best things about the first Fast and Furious movie that absolutely just makes it one of the great time capsules of early 2000s. But yeah, in a vacuum, I do think that post-credit scene was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get into final ratings. We rate our movies on a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes. 0 is an abhorrent movie. One that is physically painful to think about, one that will leave a lasting impression on you because of how much of an insult to movies it is. And 10 is an incredible film. It is near perfect, maybe even a masterpiece, one that you will remember for many years in the future, and one that reminds you why you love movies in the first place. Matthew, on a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes, what would you give Fast X?
I think I would give it a 7.5. Like, I think, if you are a fan of these movies, you know what you're getting into, and you'll have a good time.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I 7.5, good ranking. I think I'm gonna go a little lower just because I think I do think the shark jumping is kind of starting to get a little too excessive for me. I'm gonna give it a 6. Honestly, it may have been a 7 if it wasn't for the ending, but I do think the ending was pretty anticlimactic. I'm kind of excited to see where it's gonna go. As excited as I guess I really could be with these movies. Yeah, if you're a fan of the Fast franchise, I'd say go and see this movie in theaters. If you're not, this one is not going to win you back by any means. But yeah, 6, it gets a passing grade. I think it's decent. So yeah, Matthew gives it a 7.5. I give it a 6. Before we transition over to our next movie, we're actually going to open it up to questions and comments. I'm just going to talk to Matthew for a little. Matthew, this franchise has been honestly known for like I've always heard comparisons between the Fast franchise and the Transformers franchise, and it's funny that the Transformers franchise is the one that gets a lot more hate than the Fast franchise. What do you think? What do you think the Fast franchise has that the Transformers franchise doesn't? Because I've always had one answer, but I want to hear what you have to say.
You know, the Fast and the Furious franchise, it has family. And I
Yes.
think that is what is that's what's most important about these movies.
No, it's funny. You see, here's the thing. You joke about it, but I really do think it's the characters. Like, I think the fact the Fast franchise has like 6 or 7 characters that I can tell you by name that are memorable, while the Transformers franchise has Sam Witwicky, which is one of the most annoying characters I think in the history of movies. That's who you're putting your franchise on. And then, of course, in the 4th and 5th one, you have Cade Yeager, played by Mark Wahlberg, who's doing a weird Southern accent. And then you get Bumblebee, which you finally have Haley Steinfeld as Charlie, who's an actual good character. So I think that's what gives the Fast franchise the edge over the Transformers movies, is the fact they do have good characters in there.
Yeah, they have memorable characters. They have characters with great chemistry together. So like you enjoy seeing them on screen.
No, absolutely. Matthew, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It's been a long time since I've finally been able to make it. So.
No, yeah, I've been wanting to get you on for a little while. I love talking to you. You're one of the people I talk to the most, considering we're often just on late nights on calls, just talking about movies and stuff. Before you leave, is there anything you'd like to plug?
No, I got nothing to plug. I guess Matthew P. Chen is my letterbox, so if you want to follow me there.
Yeah, follow on Letterboxd. I gotta start getting like name tags, like where you can follow all of us on Letterboxd. And I just gotta start displaying that throughout the show. But yeah, follow Matthew V. Chen on Matthew V. Chen.
P. Chen.
Yeah, Matthew P. Chen on Letterboxd. Remember, don't get Chened, but you probably will. Have a great night, Matthew.
You too.
Thank you once again, Matthew, for joining me to review Fast X. But we are going to be jumping into our next review for the night, Master Gardener, directed by Paul Schrader, the Academy Award-nominated writer for films such as Taxi Driver, as well as the director of incredible movies such as Blue Collar, First Reformed, and 2021's The Card Counter was his most recent film, and he's back at it with another extremely nihilistic look at the American psyche. With this film, Joel Edgerton plays a gardener named Norville. He's essentially the head gardener of this estate that is run by Sigourney Weaver's character. And he, at the start of this movie, he seems to be someone who's very obsessed with plants. He's very meticulous in how he sets up his garden. And a new worker is coming in. It is the great niece of Sigourney Weaver's character. Her name is Maya, played by Quintessa Swindell. You may recognize her from Black Adam. She played Cyclone, I believe her character's name was. And Joel Edgerton's character, Norville, is kind of just like showing her the ropes, sort of showing her how the garden is operated, how the proper mentality that goes into taking care of a garden. And that is all in well, but this is a Paul Schrader movie. He is known for making these extremely broken and flawed characters and making you live with them. And around 25 minutes into this movie, Joel Edgerton's character takes off his shirt, and he is tatted up in swastikas and white pride tattoos. And you learn that, oh dang, this character is a former neo-Nazi that has trying to escape that past life and is using gardening as a way to try to turn a new leaf. This is a Schrader film. It's not easy to watch. You do not get the answers as to how you are supposed to feel. If I'm being honest, that is only maybe one of the most uncomfortable things about this movie, is the fact that you are following a neo-Nazi. The other thing is that you slowly start to see the romance between Norville and Maya start up. There's obviously a big age difference. There's obviously a work power relationship there. And it really makes you question certain things. And with it, and the movie doesn't give you the answers. But honestly, I enjoy movies like this. I like movies that presents you with tough circumstances and tough situations and says, What do you think about this? This is not, it's not going to be a moral lesson. It's going to be a story, and what you take away from it is important. And I love that Paul Schrader does this with all of his movies. He's known for creating these extremely morally complicated characters. I think of Ethan Hawke's character in First Reformed, him being a priest who is wrestling with his religious dilemma of overpopulation and what do we do with it, and do we leave this to God? But he also sees science as a method, and just how that clashes. Of course, Taxi Driver, the character of Travis Bickle, one of the greatest film anti-heroes of all time. And this character is very good as well. Maybe not quite as deep as some of those other characters, but you definitely feel the Schraderisms in it. Wow, I just said Schraderism. That is very, very dumb of me. Sorry. The movie definitely takes its time. You definitely are feeling the life and the world of this movie a lot. You often just see long shots of characters tending their gardens or going out to eat. It really makes you, the movie really wants to make you feel lived in this world. And I think that's necessary, because I think the thing that Schrader's really great at is making his characters feel real. And that is something that I love about this movie, is how real and how lived in all the characters in this movie feel. Both Joel Edgerton and Quintessa Swindell are fantastic. Joel Edgerton narrates the majority of this movie, and he does a pretty dang good job. Maya is kind of like the heart of this movie, and Swindell knows when to essentially let her character be the audience surrogate and see how messed up Norval's life was. You often see the ramification of Norval's life when he was a neo-Nazi through flashbacks. I'll be honest, maybe one too many flashbacks in this movie. It started to get a little bit annoying towards the end, but I also understand the intention for why they are included in the film, because essentially because it wants to make you see how despicable this character once was before he realized the error of his ways. But yeah, the movie is beautifully shot. Like, the color green, as you would expect with a movie like Master Gardener, just pops in this film. There are these really cool, like, weird trippy scenes where you'll just have Norval and Maya just driving in a car, and just the colors of, like, the flowers just start growing throughout the environment. If I'm being honest, maybe they don't serve the plot that much, but when they're as cool and as stylistic as that, it does not bother me, and I really enjoy it. Yeah, it ends on weirdly like a lighter note for a Schrader film. Like, most Paul Schrader movies tend to end on like a big, like, honestly sour note of just saying, like, man, look at these broken characters just suffer through their brokenness. But this one ends on a kind of hopeful note, like, not super hopeful note, because, like, the characters are still doing, like, bad things, but you see, like, maybe they'll be able to go and forge a new life for themselves. Sigourney Weaver is also really fun. She weirdly kind of plays like the villain role, not like mustache twirly villain, but she's definitely the one that's like that gets to have the most fun. Most of the other characters are kind of emotionless, especially Joel Edgerton. You can see the life that he has created sort of has just worn him down throughout the years. But yeah, I definitely think this was a good movie. I don't like it as much as other Paul Schrader movies, but it definitely gets the job done, and it makes you think about this complicated character in a really cool character study sort of way. If I were to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, I think I would give it a 7.5. I don't think this is going to be one I'm going to be revisiting anytime soon. It doesn't linger in my mind like some other movies he's done, even in something like The Card Counter, I think is probably a little better than this. But if you do want to, if you want to know why people laud the director Paul Schrader so much, I think this is a nice kind of like entry point into his filmography, and then getting into the even better stuff down the line. Well, it doesn't look like we have many comments tonight, but so I think we can wrap it up a little early, 30 minutes. That's a good show length. But thank you all for watching tonight. Remember to like this video, and subscribe to the video store. It really helps out the channel a lot. This Thursday, episode 3 of the Video Store Movie Club, we are covering the Wachowski sisters' non-Matrix movies. We are doing Bound, Speed Racer, and Cloud Atlas. That is going to be a lot of fun. Join me, Mike, and Nazario when we do that this Thursday. Remember, tpublic.com, the video store. You can buy Cinemasters Review shirts and a ton of other shirts. I think I legally have to say buy our shit. But yeah, this has been a wonderful show, guys. We're going to be back on a pre-recorded video next week as well, because I am going to be reviewing The Little Mermaid and About My Father. And joining me for The Little Mermaid review, I've been wanting to get her for a while, Kelly Meehan is joining me. Another Australian, some would say the best Australian, but that's going to be a lot of fun. So remember to join me next Sunday. But yeah, that just about does it tonight. Everyone, have a great night.
And the award for most vapid film review of the century goes to...
Yeah, movie review. Okay, I thought it was beauty.
And he's now in cinema hell, where one day we'll all be reunited.
This is me at the Regal Cinema crying as I did through much of the film.